The desert keeps its secrets buried beneath oceans of sand until the day the Earth decides to spit them back out. When a crack split the Sahara without warning, scientists assumed it was a simple sinkhole. But as the fissure yawned wider by the hour, swallowing dunes, machinery, and even the sunlight itself, humanity realized its mistake. This was no accident of geology. Something was digging its way out. Now, as nations scramble to contain the inexplicable void, as soldiers and scientists vanish into its depths, and as ancient warnings carved into the very rock begin to rewrite themselves, one truth becomes undeniable. The hole is not the danger. It's what's climbing out of it. A group of geologists made an extraordinary discovery deep inside the Sahara Desert, where the heat scorches the land and the winds whisper old secrets. They discovered something that was thought to be impossible. On the surface, it seemed to be nothing more than a fissure, a jagged gash in the desert floor that was hardly discernible due to the changing sands. In a few hours, however, it had significantly expanded into a gaping mouth, consuming all that was in its way. The hole had already grown to the size of a football field by the time Dr. Elias Carter and his crew arrived, and it continued to expand thereafter. The abyss that ought not to still be around. It seemed tough to believe, yet satellite photographs proved that the crater was not only growing larger, but also becoming deeper. Without any indication of a bottom, sensors that were dropped into the darkness reported depths that were more than 3,000 feet. Even more peculiar was the fact that the walls were not falling inward as a typical sinkhole would. It seemed as if something had cut its way up from underneath, as opposed to being smooth and nearly polished. Following then, the tremors began. The unspoken words in the shadows. It was forbidden for the local nomadic tribes to approach the location. They told the story of an ancient mythology that described a jail that was buried under the sand dunes and contained something that had been hidden away before the construction of the first pyramids. The elders referred to it as Al-Hufra al-Madik, which literally translates to the choking abyss. Until the drones stopped making noise, Dr. Carter disregarded it as nothing more than a superstition. The robotic probes that were dispatched into the hole gradually lost communication with one another. The most recent message was a jumbled sound that sounded like a heartbeat and was characterized by a deep, repetitive beating. Then there was static. What may be found beneath? The region has been placed under a quarantine by military personnel from 3 different countries. A collapsed subterranean river, a volcanic fissure, and perhaps an impact from a meteorite are some of the hypotheses that scientists are debating. But none of these explanations can account for the noises that seismic sensors have picked up. Something enormous moving in the dark. Moreover, the hole continues to widen. It might be a mile wide by tomorrow at the latest, a week from now. So who knows? What will take place after it reaches the city that is closest to it? What is it that stands at the very bottom? Moreover, why does the sand that is located around the perimeter smell like blood? As the hole continued to grow, everyone was holding their breath. Secrets circulated more quickly than official denials, despite the fact that governments were frantically trying to quell the hysteria. There was something in the depths, and it was beginning to awaken. It was the very first flight. A group of highly skilled scientists and members of the special forces went into the abyss, equipped with floodlights, seismic sensors, and sufficient ammunition to destroy a small town. Their objective is to track down the bottom. On their instructions, you are not to engage. Simply keep an eye out. The temperature skyrocketed as we reached 5,000 feet. Once smooth, the walls now bore unusual marks, which were symbols that were older than any human language that was known at the time. These glyphs pulsed with a subtle bioluminescent light. According to Dr. Lena Moreau, the linguist on the team, she was able to distinguish pieces of a pattern. It was over the communications that she hushed. This is not a warning. It's a countdown. Then the light stopped working. The unseen object in the dark, I heard gunshots, cries, and a sound that sounded like metal being torn apart during the most recent broadcast. Only glimpses were seen on the camera stream, which showed shadows moving against the force of gravity and skittering down the walls. His last words were captured on the helmet cam of one of the soldiers. It's not a hole, it's a throat. Then there was complete quiet. The heartbeat, a low-frequency tremor, was recorded by seismic stations. All around the world, 3 hours after the hole was discovered to be the source of the disturbance. There was no earthquake. It's not a factory. What's up as a result? Something responded. It was observed that whales altered their migratory routes in the Pacific. A stampede of sheep occurred in Mongolia for no apparent reason. Additionally, the expansion of the hole quickened in the Sahara, with its edges now crawling outward at a pace of 50 feet per hour each. The real deal? Black projects that were exploring anomalous geological phenomena that were connected to past extinction, catastrophes were discovered in declassified data that were discovered during the Cold War. A single frightening paragraph was included in a document that was branded with the words "Eyes Only." It was buried by them. I'd have left it in that position. Currently, drones are able to catch forms that are moving in the depths of the pit. These shapes are enormous, coiled objects that are altering in the dark. The United Nations has started the evacuation process. Fluent people are purchasing bunkers. Watching and waiting is all that the rest of us can do. After the hole has stopped developing, what happens next? Or not, what does it end up being? For what reason do the glyphs seem to be constantly shifting, as if they are being rewritten? Everyone on the planet watched in terror as the hole continued to expand at an exponential rate. By the time daylight arrived, it had consumed a whole oil station that had been abandoned close to the Algerian border. The metal constructions seemed to be twisted like tinfoil as they were being pulled into the abyss, as seen by satellite photographs. It appeared as if someone was dragging them in. The second expedition, there is no going back. There was a deployment of a NATO rapid response team that was given the directive to assess and neutralize. Additionally, they were armed with flamethrowers, sound emitters, and experimental plasma cutters as they entered the building this time. They were 17 minutes long. Last communication was a video burst that lasted for 4 seconds. The image showed a vast area that was even deeper than the Mariana Trench, with walls that were laced with tendrils that seemed to be biological and pulsed like veins. In addition, in the core, it is a light. There is no reflection. It's not a torch. A sentient light that was changing colors in a way that caused 3 scientists who were monitoring the broadcast to experience cognitive dissonance and almost throw up. Before the stream was cut off, the camera suddenly shook violently, allowing the viewer to get a glimpse of something enormous uncoiling in the darkness. How the world reacted to it, for many religious organizations, it was referred to as either the mouth of hell or a celestial gate, depending on who you questioned. In the meanwhile, millionaires secretly disappeared into subterranean bunkers, which caused the markets to plummet. The Department of Defense proceeded to DEFCON 2. After discovering thermal anomalies that were comparable to those found under the permafrost in Siberia and beneath the ice in Antarctica, this is the scholar's caution. The symbols code was deciphered by Dr. Moreau, the linguist who had been a part of the original team and who had refused to return to the previous team. Not only were they a countdown, but they were also a story instead. "It's a prison log," she remarked in a Zoom conversation that was accidentally exposed. And the prisoner's name translates roughly to "the one who gnaws," based on the glyphs. It seems that an ancient pre-human culture had successfully captured it by using technology that we were unable to fathom. Their last message was unmistakable. If the seal breaks, the sky will scream. A scream that every single radio telescope on the planet picked up a signal from the hole at precisely 3:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is not random noise. Rather, it is an exact duplicate of a human voice. Corporal Rivas, a soldier who had been a member of the initial team and had passed just a few days previously, was the one who spoke. It is the transmission, a solitary statement repeated in 137 languages that have since died out. "I am coming up." Then, for the very first time in the history of the Sahara, it began to rain. The rain was heavy and black, and it smelt like iron. It also left burned scars on the sand on the ground. The option available, a nuclear attack into the hole, is now being discussed by the leaders of the world. What exactly is the issue? Using seismic readings, it has been determined that the abyss has started to branch off and tunnel toward inhabited regions. Teresa, La Marrakesh, Madrid. How about the glyphs? Once again, they have altered. This time, they reveal a door. One that is open. Are they going to bomb it? Is it even going to exist?
Yeah.
If this is the case, then why are there suddenly rumors emanating from each and every deep cave system on the planet?